Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, unless you're driving. Please don't close your eyes if you're driving. But imagine you are standing right on the absolute edge of Europe. You have the Atlantic Ocean in front of you, and it is not a calm tropical ocean. It is violently smashing against these jagged gray rocks.
Right, this is this raw elemental power where you can actually feel the salt spray on your face.
Exactly. And then you turn around, and behind you is this sprawling, almost prehistoric-looking landscape. It's all brown bog and purple heather.
And those incredibly sharp skeletal mountains rising up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there is a smell, too, a very specific one.
Oh, turf fires.
Yes, that earthy, smoky, rich scent of turf burning in the distance.
It's a sensory experience that just screams Ireland. But today we are not just doing a general tour of the Emerald Isle. We are heading west. We're going to Connemara in County Galway.
Connemara. It is a place that really looms large in the imagination. Not just for Irish people, but globally.
It really does. And looking at the stack of sources we've gone through for this dive, so we've got travel guides from Wilderness Ireland and Discover Ireland. We've got cultural archives, some dense history texts, and even some music lyrics. I honestly thought this was just going to be a nice, light, deep dive into pretty landscapes and maybe a pub or two.
It is pretty, but if you stop at pretty, you were missing the entire point of Connemara.
That is exactly what I learned. The more I read, the more this place felt like a massive paradox. You have this phrase that keeps popping up in the literature, savage beauty. Oscar Wilde supposedly said it. But then you look closer and you see a history of absolute devastation sitting right next to that beauty.
Right, you have ancient mythology living next door to the technology that literally defined the 20th century.
And that is the mission of this deep dive. We're going to peel back the layers of the postcard. We need to figure out why this sparsely populated, rugged, rocky corner of the island is considered the heart of Irish culture. We're going to dissect the geology, the tragic history, and I promised you some weird global connections.
You did. I saw notes about Spanish shipwrecks, Vikings, and a French pop song.
A massive French pop song that completely changed the tourism industry there. We will definitely get to that.
Okay, so let's start with the ground beneath our feet. Because when I look at photos of Connemara compared to the rest of Ireland, it doesn't look like that lush, rolling green pastures image you see on the butter packaging.
No, it looks much wilder. It looks browner.
It is wilder. And that really starts with the rock itself. To understand Connemara, you have to understand the bones of the land. The region is dominated by two main mountain ranges, the Monturks and the 12 Bends.
The 12 Bends, that sounds like a very stoic boy band.
A very jagged, stony boy band that has been around for a very long time. These are quartzite peaks, and that geological distinction matters immensely. A lot of Ireland is limestone, which is relatively soft. It erodes smoothly, it creates soil, and allows grass to grow over it.
That's where you get the rolling green hills. But Connemara is different.
Completely different. Quartzite is stubborn.
Yeah.
It is hard, it doesn't erode easily, and it doesn't break down into nice soil. So these mountains stay sharp and skeletal. When the light hits them, they don't look green. They gleam this stark gray-white color.
And it creates this incredible contrast against the dark, wet bog below. So it's literally a harder place to live than the rest of the country. The land fights back.
The land absolutely fights back. It resists cultivation. And amidst all that gray quartzite, you have something that sources call green gold.
I saw this in the research, Connemara marble. I'll be honest, I usually glaze over when people talk about rocks, but the timeline here is insane.
It is hard to wrap your head around. We are talking about the Precambrian era. Yeah. This rock is roughly 600 million years old.
600 million years. So this rock was sitting there before complex life really even started on Earth.
Correct. It is some of the oldest rock in Europe, and it's not just old, it's incredibly functional. It's scratch resistant, stain resistant, and it has these distinct swirling green patterns from the serpentine minerals. Magnesium silicate that was compressed over eons.
And it's become a huge export, right?
Huge. It's a symbol of the region. You find it in jewelry and cathedrals and grand buildings across the world.
But you can't take the bog with you, and that seems to be 90% of the flatland there. Just miles of wet brown emptiness.
To an outsider, it looks desolate. It looks like wasteland. But that bog is the engine of the region. That smell we talked about in the intro, that's the peat, or turf as locals call it. For centuries, this was the only way people could survive the freezing winters.
Walk me through that, because to me it just looks like mud.
It's anaerobic, decayed vegetation that has been compressed over thousands of years. It's incredibly carbon dense. Locals use a tool called a slane, which is a special spade to cut bricks of this wet earth. They stack it, dry it in the wind, and then burn it. It burns hot and slow.
So the land itself is the fuel. You were literally burning the landscape to stay alive.
Yes. But here is a key insight from the sources that changes how you look at those wild open spaces. We think of the bog as nature untouched, right?
Yeah, it looks totally primitive.
But the sources point out that the bogs are actually receding. They are a human-altered landscape. Between centuries of harvesting the peat for fuel and clearing patches for agriculture, the bog is shrinking.
So humanity's scratching out an existence on top of this tough geology. But speaking of scratching things out, I need you to explain the rolling sun. This sounds like an Indiana Jones puzzle.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This brings us to Crow Patrick.
The reek. Now I know the basic story. St. Patrick climbs the mountain in 441 AD, fasts for 40 days, banishes the snakes, and throws a bell down the mountainside. It's the holiest mountain in Ireland.
That is the Christian overlay. And it's very important. Thousands of pilgrims climb it barefoot every year. But if you dig under that, you find Mons Eigley. That was the mountain's name long before Patrick arrived.
A site of pagan worship.
Likely for a harvest deity or a sun god like Crumcruach.
And the evidence for this isn't just feelings, right? It's physics.
It's astrophysics almost. There is a specific spot called the Bohé Stone. It's covered in Mesolithic rock art, these ancient circular carvings that act like a map. If you stand at that stone on two very specific dates, April 18th and August 24th, and watch the sunset, something incredible happens.
Okay, paint the picture for me.
As the sun goes down, the angle of the slope and the position of the observer creates a trick of perspective. The sun appears to physically roll down the flank of the mountain like a glowing ball rolling down a steep hill.
That sounds like a special effect from a movie.
It looks like one too, but it's a calendar. Those dates aren't random. They mark the beginning and the end of the growing season.
So thousands of years ago, people weren't just looking at the mountain and thinking that's big. They were using it as a massive agricultural clock to ensure their survival.
Precisely. It reminds us that this wild place has been mapped and understood by people for millennia. They knew how the light hit the rock better than we do today.
That connection to the land in the name, isn't it? Connemara. It sounds poetic, but what does it actually translate to?
It comes from the Irish Connemara. The Connemara were an early tribal grouping. It translates roughly to the descendants of Conmac.
And who is Conmac?
A mythical ancestor. The name means the hound's son of the sea.
Descendants, the hound, son of the sea. That is a heavy title.
It ties the people directly to the ocean, which makes sense. The ocean is the highway and the larder here. But that relationship with the environment hasn't always been romantic. We have to pivot to the famine road.
Yeah. This was the part of the research that really stopped me in my tracks. We're talking about Ngordomor, the Great Hunger of the 1840s.
You are. And to understand Connemara, you have to understand this trauma. It is baked right into the landscape. If you go to Kilry Fjord today, which is Ireland's largest fjord, with stunning deep water and mountains on both sides, you will see a road running along the southern edge.
It looks like a beautiful hiking trail.
It's a scar. It was built in 1846 as a famine relief road.
And the context here is brutal. The potato crop has failed due to blight. People are literally starving to death in their homes and in the fields.
Yes. And the colonial administration and landlords at the time had a philosophy blending laissez-faire capitalism with a strange morality that charity without work was wrong. They demanded starving people earn their food.